The pressure inside the core can no longer be held back. At long last we have arrived, 1:23:45. The instant the lid is thrown off the reactor, oxygen rushes in.
It's funny. I was originally going to talk about this one later on, but then I realized that this month was its 40th anniversary, so I was like, screw it, let's talk about it anyway. The Chernobyl disaster was a horrific nuclear disaster that took place on April 26, 1986. To give more context, the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, initially named the Vladimir Lenin Power Plant after the founder of the USSR, officially began operation on September 26, 1977, in Pripyat, Ukraine, during which time it was under Soviet occupation. The plant, lying 100 kilometers north of Kyiv and 20 kilometers south of Belarus, ran on 4 nuclear reactors of the RBMK-1000, which was a unique water-cooled reactor with individual fuel channels and using graphite as its moderator. The moderator being the function used to slow down neutrons to make them more efficient in producing fission in the fuel, which surrounded the pressure tubes. This combination was unlike any other design and could be found in no other power reactor in the world. Unfortunately, the design also had many issues, including an unsafe design of the control rod and positive void coefficient, which means that if the power level increases or the flow of water decreases, there's increased production in the fuel channels. As I mentioned before, Chernobyl was made up of 4 units. The first and second units were built between 1970 and 1977, while the third and fourth units of the same design were completed in 1983, with 2 more RBMK reactors still under construction at this time. The fourth reactor, in particular, was 7 meters high and 12 meters in diameter. The core also had 4 main coolants, one of which was always on standby. Other details incorporated into this reactor included various safety systems, such as an emergency core cooling system and an absolute minimal insertion of over 30 control rods, which was a requirement. This reactor was ran on by around 13 to 19 people, one of them being Anatoly Dyatlov, who was the deputy chief and engineer of Unit 4. According to the book Midnight in Chernobyl by Adam Higginbotham, Dyatlov was, to put it bluntly, a pretty hard-headed f***. His management style unforgiving, and often cursing out staff who did not follow his orders. He also worked on 6 days a week, while also priding himself on his knowledge of reactor systems. During his time at Chernobyl, Dyatlov was responsible for overseeing the successful construction and operation of the first 3 reactors, which actually produced a significant portion of Ukraine's electricity at that time. But many engineers saw him as brash, stubborn, and all-around unfair. On the morning of April 25th, at 1 a.m., Dyatlov oversaw a test being conducted at reactor number 4, in which operators began reducing power, timed to coincide with the routine shutdown for maintenance. The test was supposed to determine whether the turbines could produce enough electricity to keep coolant pumps running before the emergency generators kicked in the event of a power failure. The reactor's core cooling system was even disabled to make sure it didn't interfere with the test. At 11:10 p.m., operators received permission to continue with the test and shutdown. By now, some of the operators on the night shift were working on the job, but they were less experienced and did not receive proper instructions on how to perform the test. The next day at noon, power plummeted far below the level of which the reactor was considered stable. Operators noticed this and quickly responded by removing most of the control rods, which was in violation of the plant's safety guidelines. They also tried to take over the flow of the water, which was very difficult because small temperature changes could cause large power fluctuations. It was unsuccessful, and the reactor started to become increasingly unstable. Want an idea of how unstable? Well, the reactor section foreman, Valery Ivanovich, was present at level 50, when he noticed the 350 kilogram blocks atop of the fuel channels of the upper biological shield jumping up and down, and felt shockwaves throughout the entire building. The rupture of pressure channels was in progress, and things were about to get even more disastrous. At 1:23 a.m., one of the operators pressed the emergency shutdown button, but the control rods jammed as they entered the core. Finally, Near minutes after the power surge, reactor number 4 exploded. The first explosion blew the roof right off the reactor and shot a fireball right into the night sky. The second one, estimated to have had the power equivalent of 225 tons of dynamite, dispersed and damaged the reactor core, and effectively terminated the nuclear chain reaction, but that wasn't enough to stop the radiation. A blackout rippled into the night, filling the air with dust and graphite chunks as radiation was spreading throughout the area. All the walls and equipment collapsed, and lots more fires emerged. Firefighters were called in by dispatchers and plant staff to report the ongoing fires in Pripyat. They reported major damage to the Reactor 4 building, and in the call, they also expressed panic, confusion, and extreme stress. The following audio is that call.
Поднимай над состав. Поднимаю. Начальника поднял. Так всех весь офицерский состав, офицерский корпус поднимай.
When firefighters arrived, they were tragically not prepared for the levels of radiation at the scene, as they weren't wearing any protective gear whatsoever. 138 of them responded, and roughly 28 of them died of acute radiation syndrome, or ARS. Common symptoms of ARS include vomiting, skin turning red, nausea, diarrhea, and headache. Many of these firefighters were exposed to high radiation levels, and many of them had to be evacuated. At 5 a.m., local Soviet officials shut down reactor number 3, followed by the reactors 1 and 2 the next morning. Locals were not told of the disaster for almost 2 days, and officials began evacuating roughly 115,000 residents from Pripyat, as well as nearby towns and villages. On April 29th, while radiation was still contaminating the area, spy satellites took photos of the disaster, which provided U.S. officials with the first glimpse of the devastation. Speaking of America, the event also triggered global panic due to its delayed reporting by the Soviet Union. It was only when radiation levels began rising in Sweden that people began to realize the size and scale of what was really going on. It also shifted public perception of the use of nuclear energy and led to a worldwide push from environmental groups to reconsider nuclear power usage. Anatoly Dyatlov, who also had been exposed to the high radiation levels, had received immediate medical care and ultimately survived the disaster due to his prior experience with radiation poisoning. He was later sentenced to 10 years in prison for his role in the disaster, paroled in 1990, and later passed away in 1995 from heart failure. Ironically, a long-term effect of radiation exposure. With that said, Chernobyl is an event that, given its near-catastrophic aftermath, has obviously been studied and documented a lot. Books have been written regarding personal accounts, testimonies, political context, environmental studies, and a detailed analysis on what really happened and the people involved. It was extensively covered in the news, and even today it remains a hot-button topic in the media thanks to the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. Many movies and documentaries have also been made about the event, including one on Netflix, another on CNN, and perhaps the most well-known being HBO's 2019 miniseries. Directed by Craig Mazin, known also for his work on The Last of Us TV show, also from HBO, Superhero Movie, Scary Movie 3, Scary Movie 4, Identity Thief, Dune Part 2, and The Hangover Parts 2 and 3. As for the event itself, it remains the worst nuclear disaster in history, and as of today the area is now completely closed off to the public, holding high safety risks while also under Russian occupation. The plant was permanently shut down in 2000 and has officially become a dangerous area for any visitors, not just due to the radiation, but also due to mines from the war. So the question remains, who exactly or what exactly was the root cause of Chernobyl? Was it due to poor management, bad design flaws, serious violations of safety protocol, or did it just occur at the wrong place and at the wrong time? While it is easy to blame the people involved, and there were a lot, including Dyatlov, personally, I do believe that they were smart people who just didn't realize the disastrous effects, and far worse, they didn't take proper caution. So, That's my opinion. Another opinion, well, before they perform the reactor forces with people, I feel like they should have tried it out on turtles first.